It's one of the biggest things that you hear from people when you start talking about the 2022 season, which is that there is a lot of optimism about Georgia's offense, about that they feel like they have the capability to score more. They're very comfortable with Stetson Bennett as a quarterback. His decision-making skills, his ability to run, those two things are difference makers in today's college football. That's why, I mean, he's not the same physically, but that's why you see CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, those guys are complicated to deal with because they add in a little bit of the run. Well, Stetson can add in a lot of the run. Just ask Tennessee, ask Auburn, ask Michigan. I mean, it's not a lot of fun when the quarterback can run, right? And you see that now with Georgia's three of Georgia's four quarterbacks really have the ability to damage you with their feet. Probably most notably Brock Vandagriff, but well, maybe Stetson more than Brock. That's a good question actually. And then Gunnar Stockton, 100% has the ability to do it. He's just not as gifted a runner. He's more of a thumper, which is not what you'd call a quarterback. He understands Gunnar how to run the football and make plays. But in the entire 2021 season, you got a chance to check out this Georgia team just with Stetson as the quarterback. Now, that wasn't a lot of games at the beginning of the season, but the win over UAB was one example. And then you come back with the performances against Arkansas and Auburn, and you started to see what Stetson could do with his legs. And that was a problem for a lot of teams. Now, with that said, it's not just about Stetson. He will get a lot of the discussion, but I do want to hone in on a couple things here. Against UAB, he had 20 yards rushing, 12 against South Carolina, but he didn't play that entire game. He had 5 against Vanderbilt, played most of that game, but not all of it. 3 runs against Arkansas for 16 yards. The 9-yard run, I think it was at the beginning of the game. That was a really important gain. 6 carries for 41 yards against Auburn, including a 30-yarder. Against the Cats, he had a 17-yard run, 3 runs for 22 yards. Some of these include sacks, by the way. 6 runs for 35 yards against the Gators, included a 20-yarder. Missouri, he didn't run much at all, 2 carries for 10 yards. One of those was a sack. Tennessee, he made pay. 8 runs, 40 yards, 5 yards a carry, 13 yards was his longest run. Against Alabama in the championship game, 7 carries for 14. Several of those were sacks. Michigan, 3 carries for 32 yards, 10 yards a carry. And then he had 8 carries against Alabama for negative 24 yards, along with 14. The bulk of the negative yards was on that play where everybody thought Georgia had lost the game. I'm kind of getting away from the point though, which is that although Stetson can run the ball well, he also can throw it well. And it's everybody that's surrounding him. There's a lot of discussion that Georgia will have a better run game. I'm not certain I believe that myself. Here's what Greg McElroy had to say. Yeah, Georgia lost some capable pieces in James Cook and Zamir White, but Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton are certainly extremely talented. There won't be much of a drop off in that position. Yes, I think that's probably a closer reality based look at Georgia's run game. I mean, in the time that we've seen Kendall and Kenny, they've never had to do it the entire season. There's been flashes. We need to see Kendall be completely healthy the entire season. I think if you start talking about Kendall being healthy the entire year, he could be the best back Georgia's had since Nick Chubb. That includes DeAndre Swift. So, there's a lot of optimism there. The offensive line is pretty good, actually. It will be one of the best offensive lines in the country. The receivers, you lose George Pickens and you lose Jermaine Burton, both for different reasons, but they're gone. So your explosiveness perhaps goes away some, but people inside would tell you, no. Lad McConkey has the ability to go deep in a way that people don't expect. A.D. Mitchell obviously has the ability to go deep. We've seen Arian Smith. These are all going off the top of my head. Let's just see when Rosemary Jack Saint gets healthy. And same thing for Arian Smith for the entire season. Can those guys stay healthy the entire year? You're talking about a very different ball game for the Dogs there. But the power of this team, period, is going to be the tight ends. If last season the power was the defensive line, people would say the defense, let's just stick to a position. If the power last year was the defensive line, which had 3 guys go in the first round, um, the power for the program right now, period, is tight end. You have 3 potential first round guys. I don't think they will be first round guys, but perhaps if they were spread out at different programs, they would have the capability of being first round guys. You have Bowers, Gilbert, and Washington. That's just those guys. You have other tight ends too that make plays. But with those guys, you have the capability. I mean, that's the best tight end room in the country. It might be the best tight end room in my lifetime of college football. I mean, I don't think that's an exaggeration because when you think, I mean, I don't know who else. I'm very familiar with Georgia late 90s tight ends. That was Larry Brown, Jermaine Wiggins, Randy McMichael. That's not a bad group. But I don't know if that group's better than this group. Anyway, not all that withstanding, um, what they all bring to the table is different too. I mean, Brock and Gilbert are more similar to one another than they are to Darnell, but neither of them can do what Darnell can do on the line of scrimmage. I mean, he is a straight up mauler. He is a real problem for anybody that's playing against Georgia. Okay. Secondly, um, there's so much that you can do with Ray Gilbert that he's the best high school player I've seen, with the exception of Zamir White, in a while. And he's not dealing with 2 ACL injuries. He's trying to get back in shape. So the Gilbert we may see may more closely mirror what I saw when Marietta stuck their thumb right in Parkview's eye, heading into Thanksgiving or somewhere around Thanksgiving in 2008. No, I guess it was 2019. This is a special tight end group. So you take all of those things collectively. I mean, there are people in the program who are super high on AD Mitchell and Lad McConkey specifically. Not putting down the other wide receivers, not nothing, none of that. They're just saying those guys can really be special. And we've seen, I mean, AD, yeah, listen, I'm running out of dog instructions. Make sure you're picking up the link down below. Make sure you're going over to Dog Post. You're missing out on quality content. It's not all pay at Dog Post. This right here, this play. Now, this is against a backup DB. Nick Saban made that very clear. But you go to the game with the team you got to be. I hate to be Donald Rumsfeld about it, but that's what it is. You got who you got, and folks are excited about who Georgia's got. Are you? And the question is, can they match up with everybody they got to deal with in the 2022 season? You tell me down below.